welcome back to the Inspiration Station and your Everyday Edge podcast. I'm your host, Mr. U. If you're watching us for the very first time, thanks for making us part of your week. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, if you have a question for myself or our guests, drop it in the comments section or the chat where you're watching this show. We'll do our best to answer it live. Just make sure it's relevant to the conversation. I'm going to ignore it. But if it is relevant, we'll answer it live on the air as we can. But thanks again for making us part of your day and your week, and for supporting all four of our shows on the They Call Me Mr. U, brand of shows. Now, our guest coming in today is a life and leadership coach, keynote speaker, Amazon #1 best-selling author, which is so awesome. He's also an 8th degree black belt and one of today's leading voices in breakthrough performance. Chris Natzke is in the house. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Pleasure's all mine. I'm doing great, man. Glad that you're here, man. All right, so we haven't got a chance to get fully acquainted, but we're going to do that here on the show today. So let's go ahead and get into some talk here. So before we get into what you've been doing and your journey, kind of give us a bit of a tidbit where you're from and how you got from where you were to where you are right now. And then we get into more detail. Right.
Excellent. So I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, a little town called Oconomowoc. It's the only city in the nation with 5 O's in its name, Oconomowoc. We have a little test on that afterwards. And was born and raised there, and then started my martial art training at that time when I was 10 years old. Went on to play college football at Northwestern University. Worked in the corporate world after that for 10 years. And then in 1995, I opened up my own martial arts studio here in the Denver area. And still involved in the martial arts, although I still don't own those schools. And I've been doing life leadership coaching and keynote speaking since 2013.
All right. Well, there's a lot to get into, a lot of meat on that bones. We're going to get into it. All right. So one of the things that I get a lot from guests that come on our show is how to shatter limitations. I'm going to challenge you today to do something that is not normally done. For people who are listening right from the outset, how would you engage people to shatter limitations that's outside of the normal we hear all the time? Because a lot of times people give us a bit of a pat answer, or maybe it's more of a blanket, overarching general way to break limitations. But from what you've learned, what you've seen and experienced, and how you coach people, how would you say that the listener can shatter limitations today?
Right. Well, the first step in any transformation is awareness. We have to slow down enough to realize that there is a limitation. Many of us get so caught up into our day-to-day activities that things tend to slowly creep into our lives, and they become our new normals. So if you are in a place in your life right now where you're not feeling happy, things are not going the way you want, the first thing I always tell clients is to slow down. Take a look at what's really happening in their lives, and then start to ask themselves some questions about what they can do to overcome that. But many times we're very much a society about doing, which action is important, but you have to slow down and get to the awareness piece first so you can take appropriate inspired action to break through.
Love it. Love it. As somebody who considers myself, or maybe a lot more in the past than I am now, but I probably still am considered a high achiever. What's the biggest lie that we've been believing as high achievers? It's actually keeping us from accomplishing perhaps greater works.
Yeah, I think that in one way, what I'm going to share with you is both a great impetus for us as high achievers, and also can hold us back, is this inherent feeling that we're not good enough. So I think early in our lives, what we do is we tend to achieve highly because we have this feeling inside of us that we feel we're not good enough. And so we have to perform in order to receive love and accolades and things like that. But then later on, that strategy begins to stop working, right? And so if we want to take to the next level of breakthrough, the next level of expansion in our lives, we have to own ourselves, the good pieces and the bad pieces, right? And really embrace our full personality, if you will. So that's our next level of breakthrough. When we have that in tow, when we're able to fully accept ourselves, now the breakthroughs can take ourselves to a place that we've never been before.
I love it. I want to get into, this could be my only martial arts question, okay, or part two of it anyways. But one of the things I want to ask you about is, usually This is the general statement. This is not to anybody that I know, but as a general rule, it seems like people who go into martial arts. I know I went into Tai Chi for a little while, and it was the reason why. What would you say was the reason that you went into martial arts? Because a lot of times it's to overcome something. Sometimes it's to overcome bullying. Sometimes it's to have a personal sense. You know what? I'm in some level of control.
Right.
What was the reason that you went into martial arts?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I really wasn't, I mean, at times I was bullied as a kid, but I was a short, little chubby, fat kid at 10 years old. And I was also always into superheroes and people that could overcome obstacles, can be the hero in a situation. And my personal journey in martial arts started in 1973. And during that time, ABC had a television show called Kung Fu. And now this is a time in the United States where martial arts was not that well known. In fact, there wasn't a martial arts school on every corner like there is today. And so when I saw this as a 10-year-old, I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. And after I went to my first class, I watched these guys with these amazingly powerful movements, and I literally felt like I came home. And interestingly enough, I was the only kid in the class. So, back in the early 70s, it wasn't like it was in the 80s and 90s and 2000s where martial arts schools were filled with kids. That was pre-Karate Kid movie days. And so I was hanging out and working out with a bunch of 20-year-olds, but you couldn't have scraped me off that deck. That's where I needed to be.
I love it. Anybody who has a question for Chris or myself, drop it in the comment or the chat where you're watching the episode. We're ready to take those questions soon you're ready to send them. So do you learn anything about success from doing martial arts? Anything that was like a mainstay in your personal development as a leader?
100%. In fact, it's probably the basis of my entire structure for success. One of the things that's inherently built within martial arts as you're moving through, say, the belt ranking system, is being able to set small intermediate goals on your way to black belt. And one of the things that I found on that journey, as well as being able to lead over 2,000 students down to black belt themselves, is it never is hardly ever about people who are inherently talented at the beginning that find it to be very easy. It's generally the best black belts are the ones that have to go through an obstacle, that have to go through personal limitations, maybe they're physical, mental, spiritual, whatever. But what happens is when they start getting those small victories, they start building that momentum. And they literally live into a saying that we use in martial arts all the time, is that a black belt is a white belt that never quit.
I like that. So talking coach to coach here now.
Yeah.
When you meet somebody who is facing adversity, there is sometimes with some coaches that a tendency to try to help them fix what's happening.
That's right.
I personally, my life is a lot older than I look, just for full transparency. The adversity has shaped me. Yeah. It's made me into a better person. And you definitely don't want to take that from somebody as a coach. So what's your approach to that when you know somebody is going through adversity that is probably going to be good for them? Yeah. They're railing against it, kicking and screaming.
That's right.
But it might be better for them. How do you handle that as a coach, and how you deliver that message? If you deliver it at all.
Yeah, first of all, and I think you bring up a great point, because I think that when we're going through obstacles, it's, as you said, many of us, myself included, in the past, are in them kicking and screaming. You want to get over it. But when we look at those, once we get through those times in our lives, I don't know about you, but I think some of the greatest struggles that I had, I look back at with the greatest amount of respect and positive positive feelings about, because they were the things that got me to develop in terms of the person that I was today. And so one of the things that I always will tell people is that when you're in the moment and you're really, really feeling like things are getting out of control, is to breathe and slow down. Many of us, as I noted before, we want to do, but getting into that awareness of what's really happening at that time without our story, right? He said this or this happened and that's why it made me feel bad. But no, what really happened? And then maybe ask yourself, what wants to happen here? Is is, the world of the universe kind of guiding me in a different direction? Because many times our greatest obstacles become our springboards for our greatest advancement. And then what I always encourage my coaching clients to do is then ask yourself 3 questions. What do I need to keep doing? What are the positive habits with the positive mindset, et cetera, that I need to keep engaging in? Then what do I need to stop doing? What are the activities, the belief systems, et cetera, that are not serving me anymore? And then number 3 is, what do I need to start doing? Is there something different? Is there a different way of approaching this challenge? Because when we look at it that way, those difficult times literally become our springboards for success and shaping us into being a new person that we deserve to be.
I love it. You talk a lot about thinking like a champion. And those are the kind of things that it feels like in the 90s, they were really, really prevalent, for lack of a better word. Now it feels like there is a bit of a decline in the acceptance of those kind of mindsets, because it's been done so many times to the point that it's been diluted and watered down now. But I personally, and this is biblically, spiritually, every aspect of my life, I think about the idea of mastery, not mastering people, and not even trying to master my own mind, because I'm not in control of me as much as I can believe. Right. Some things are out of your control. But I think about things as far as the discipline, training your body, training your mind. How do you think? If you think bad thoughts all the time, how do you stop doing that? How do you start, feeling better in your body when you go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning? That is training and discipline for yourself. I believe that you care about the idea of thinking like a champion, talking like a champion. That kind of mindset you teach your people. What are daily habits that can help you create that kind of champion's mindset that you talk about, that people can live out and not just talk about doing?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is this is, I oftentimes will say this to my martial arts students, and particularly within earshot of their parents. Many young children are brought to a martial arts school because their parents want them to develop discipline. And I usually stop people in their tracks when I answer it this way. I say, martial arts is not about discipline. Martial arts is about self-discipline. Okay. What we want to teach our students, what we want to have even as adults is self-discipline, a commitment to ourselves, integrity to ourselves, that the things that are going to serve us, we're committed to doing each and every day. Now, one thing that I always share with my coaching clients is that it's very easy to start off fast, but it's about maintaining of that discipline, right? That's where people get off course. So the first thing is that if you have any big goal or any achievement you want, break it down into small, digestible chunks, right? Because now what you're doing is you're building momentum and you're building new habits. Because when you're doing that over a course in time, those small actions done consistently over time, they can lead to massive results. And then the second thing I would recommend to people is set yourself up for success. If you're going to do a new habit, do what the author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, talks about. He talks about the idea of stacking habits, right? Yeah. So if you want to incorporate a new habit, do it alongside of something you already do each and every day. If you want to, do positive affirmations, put them on the bathroom mirror. So when you're brushing your teeth, you can be reading them because you're going to brush your teeth, and they did then begin to develop from there. So, and then the final thing is schedule those activities that are most important for you to meet your goals. Literally schedule them in your calendar. Don't do them when you get to them. Do them because you prioritize them, and other things in your life revolve around those. Again, my experience as a martial arts master instructor for decades, it wasn't the people that had the greatest athletic ability that became my best black belts. They're the ones that just kept showing up. And they made it a priority in their lives, whatever that was. In this case, training for their black belt. That's what made them successful.
Yeah, it's a great segue into my next question. You coined the phrase, I assume you coined it, conscious persistence.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you keep going when the results don't quite look like where you want it to be?
Well, I coined that term because I realized also in my own life Most people don't fail because they're persistent. Most people don't succeed because they're not persistent. They fail because they're persistent about things that don't serve them, right? Because they're unconscious to the activities that they do each and every day. And I'll oftentimes say this to coaching clients or when I do my speaking is, hey, when was the last time you left work or you left someplace and something else was on your mind and 20, 30 minutes later, you drove up the driveway and you had no idea how you got from point A to point B? Whatever was happening, you were consistent with it, but you had no awareness to it. So what I always tell people is to slow down and break it down and be really present to whatever is happening, whether it's quote unquote positive or negative. And then again, as I said before, set up the structure so that you can consistently pursue that. You know, I use this example in my keynote speech. I'll say, okay, everybody make a fist. But when you make a fist, I want you to bring your thumb and underneath your fingers, right? So, you know, my thumb is like this. Now, what would happen if I punch something like that? Well, of course, I'd break my thumb. Well, what would happen if I practiced that 1,000 times? What would I get good at? Breaking my thumb, right? But most people don't slow down enough to see that the activities that they're embarking upon they're familiar, but they're not effective. So that's why I coined the term conscious persistence is slow down, get clear about what is going to benefit you, and then be persistent about that.
We got time for a few more questions. I'm going to ask you a couple more. I'm going to have you at the end kind of share that story, because this show was about stories that spark action. I want you to share that story of triumph or victory that sparked the action in you. So I'll give you some time to think about what that is. But you mentioned something about 5 power questions, which I find very intriguing. 5 power questions, I guess we can ask ourselves to help us break through, I guess, challenging times and seasons and moments in our life. Do you remember what those 5 power questions are?
Full disclosure, I think I already shared them, but I'll be happy to share them again. It's when you are in that challenge, is slow down and ask yourself what's really happening here. Not with the story that this person insulted you or your boss laid down that that project at 5 o'clock on a Friday and expected it done on Monday morning and you're all upset about it. Slow down and just say what's really happening here. That person said this without the story of how hurt you were by it. Number 2 is what's really happening, or what wants to happen here. So the idea is that sometimes, it's a fine line sometimes between persistence and bullheadedness, right? And sometimes all the signs are for us to gently move in another direction, and we don't take those signs. So what wants to happen here? When challenges there, is it maybe encouraging you to look at some other options? And then those 3 questions: what do I need to keep doing? What are the things, the activities, the mindset, et cetera, that have been serving me? What do I need to stop doing? Is there something that I'm doing on a regular basis that just isn't serving, but I do it because I've always done it that way before? And then finally, what do I need to start doing? Is there a different activity, a different mindset, a different thought pattern that I need to install that's going to serve me and help me move forward?
Love it. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the 3 C's of breakthrough. Yeah. You may have mentioned something, but just for clarity's sake, I want to make sure we cover that. But kind of before you get into those, kind of share why you felt like, this is something you want to put out there. Me personally, being on this side of things, business circles, interviewing a lot of guests, I've seen so many formulas.
Yeah.
The 10 ways to have a healthy marriage, the 3 keys on how to be successful in business, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And so sometimes, admittedly, just me being honest, if I don't hear something that hits me, I'm like, this is going to be something I've heard 1,000 times over and over again.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the 3 C's of breakthrough, it definitely means something to you. Yes. Kind of share why they mean what they mean to you and how they came about.
Exactly. Well, I think it's an interesting story. So one of the things that I do as part of my business, my speaking business, is I have a breaking through board breaking experience that I do with corporations. And so what I do is I go into companies, go into organizations, And we use the breaking of a board as a metaphor for them to have a breakthrough in their life. And what we do is we basically take the board. On one side, they write a breakthrough that they want to achieve. And on the other side, we have them write the limiting belief or beliefs that have been holding them back. And then I systematically take them through the mechanics of breaking that board. And those boards are the same boards I have my black belts break. So this is it's not an easy process for them to go through. And what's amazing with that process is the transformation I'll sometimes see right in front of my eyes. Because it works as such a powerful metaphor for their breakthrough. And so anyway, the reason that I developed these 3 C's and the reason that they became basically the foundation of my book Breaking Through is, as I was doing these board breaking experiences, there were times that companies or organizations would bring me back on an annual basis. And I would invariably see people who had taken the board breaking experience before. And they'd come up and they'd say hi again. And they'd say, oh my gosh, the board breaking experience was so awesome. The board is still in my office. It's right behind me every day. I look at it. And so, of course, I would ask, well, how's your breakthrough? And 50% of the time, half the time, people would say, oh my gosh, it was the best thing. I hit the breakthrough after my 2nd month. And now I'm on to this, that, and the other. I'm going, great. That's what I wanted. The other half of the time, I'd say, well, how's your going? And they'd go, well, I'm still working on it. And that was the discussion. So I said to myself, rather than just having them have the euphoric experience of breaking a board, breaking a piece of wood, I need to give them some guidance as to how you could actually experience that breakthrough. And that's how the 3 C's were born.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I like it. That, and it has a story attached to it, and that's what we do on this show. The stories they make a difference. Some people gloss over the story because they want to get to the stuff on their business card or the highlights. I'm like, yeah, that's not what we care about.
No, these were functional, and they came from my own experience. When I started to think, okay, and I wanted to make it relatively easy, right, for people to just be able to concentrate on those 3 C's. And of course, there's elements within them that I expand upon. But do you want me to share the 3 C's with you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Excellent. So again, first one is to clarify your vision. And I know that a lot of people have heard, oh, you have to have a vision. And I think that's super true. But here's what I started to realize as I was coaching people. When I would say, what's your vision for this, your career, your health and wellness, your relationships, most people could never answer directly what their vision was. But what they were really good was telling me what they didn't want. And if you focus constantly on what you don't want, you're going to keep getting what you don't want. So what I helped in my work is help them. Okay, great. Let's talk about what you don't want to have happen. And now let's transform that into what that vision is. So that's the first one, which is to clarify the vision. The second one is to create a plan. And this was basically based off of what I saw thousands of students go through and the martial art journey. You don't show up one day and then you start your martial art training and 2 weeks later you become a black belt. It's a 3 to 4 year process, and you literally have a plan on what you need to work, and you have different goals that are set, so on and so forth. And so it's about basically taking that concept and overlaying it into anything that people want to experience a breakthrough in. And then finally, it's the one that I'm a huge proponent of. It's taking consistent action. That's the 3rd C, consistent action. And again, many of us are really good at being heroes at the beginning. We blast out and we're doing it. And then all of a sudden what happens is we hit what I call the panic zone. It's so uncomfortable to us, we can't maintain it. And we literally will snap back like a rubber band to where we were before. But what I advocate is the stretch zone. And just start off with goals of maybe a 1% increase per day. Now, what's great about that is that if people do that and they sustain a 1% increase each day over the course of a year, at the end of the year, they'll be 37 times better than when they started. But here's where it gets really interesting. If they maintain that for 2 years, They won't be 74 times better. They'll be 1,400 times better, because good habits don't add up, they compound. And so that's the premise of taking consistent action.
I love that. For me, I love to hear which one you think is the one that your clients struggle with the most. Because when I hear create a plan, that seems to be the one that people they hedge you doing. I've seen it in coaching, leadership development. I've seen it in ministry. I've seen it in every area. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. I mean, that's the one that's that seems to be the challenge. I mean, your first one is clarify the vision. I mean, people struggle with that sometimes too, because they often can't see themselves in the larger picture. Right. So it's like clarifying the vision is scary, because like that's the unknown, and I don't know barely who I am right now, much less who I'm going to be in the future. So that's rough. But the second one, it seems to be the one that people struggle with the most, having to take stuff out of the conceptual stage. I was just telling somebody this yesterday on the podcast. Yeah, it's real great. It's great in here. The idea sounds fantastic in here. It's everything you want. Idealistically, it's fantastic. Take it out and put it on paper where people can see it.
That's right.
Attach a time to it, a deadline to it. Share that with people who potentially can help you, and kind of critique and walk through this, and it's a whole different ball game. Are you seeing that same?
Oh, I definitely see that. And I think that people are hesitant to that because they're holding themselves. I make a distinction in my work that I don't hold my clients accountable. I hold them capable. And what I mean by that is that accountability, and I think accountability is a great tool, but sometimes it can maybe be a little pejorative. Hey, you didn't do what you said you're going to do. But capable says, I see greatness in you. You're accepting your greatness, and I'm going to hold you to that standard. And I think that sometimes people hesitate at creating that plan because they are afraid in advance that they're not going to meet it, and that they're going to fail, and that they're going to repeat the pattern that they've done in the past of starting something and then not finishing it. And what happens if life happens to me? Well, here's the thing, is what you do as part of the work I do with clients is we don't just plan for the success, we plan for the obstacle in advance. How are you going to respond when that obstacle that's always happened before shows up? Let's have a plan for that so you can keep your momentum going.
I love it. And just to close out our show, Chris, I would love you to share a quick story of triumph and victory that you believe sparked action in you and brought you to a place where you have the kind of clarity and the mindset and vision that you have right now.
Well, this is when I think about this story, and I share this story often, it became the foundation for basically the work that I'm still doing today. And it happened when I was 13 years old. So at 13 years old, I had started my martial art training at 10. And at 13 years old, a man came into my life that would change my life forever. In fact, he's still my instructor to this day. His name is Grandmaster J.K. Lee. Now, Grandmaster Lee had recently moved from South Korea. Very little money in his pocket, could hardly speak English, but he had this burning desire to transform lives through martial arts. And one of the first times that I was in his class, he walked onto the mat and he started surveying all the students. And pretty soon he was looking at me, and I was seated in the corner of the room with my legs spread wide. I was stretching out for the training that morning. Well, before I could move a muscle, he came over and he sat down in front of me, and he put his right foot on the inside of one leg, his left foot on the inside of the other. He grabbed the ends of my belt and he split me out to 180 degrees. And I joke, I learned two distinct life lessons that morning. Number one is anyone can do the splits once. But the second thing is, and this was still stays with me today, this is 50 years ago. He looked at me in the eyes and he said to me in his broken English, I will make you a champion. I will make you a champion. Now, at 13 years old, I thought about medals and trophies and Olympics, and I eventually had success in the ring. But the more that I've moved away from that experience and seen how it's impacted my life, I realized that when he did that, he wasn't just saying, I'll make you a champion in the ring. He was saying, I will make you a champion in life. These tenets that I'm teaching you, you can use them in all aspects of your life. And the other thing about this is that my head as a 13-year-old heard, I will make you a champion in the ring. But what my heart heard was, I believe in you.
Mm.
I believe in you. And so I tell that story, and I'm getting chills, and I tell this all the time, and I still get chills when I tell it, because it was so profound for me, not only in my own development to get me on a course, because I grew up in a household with an alcoholic dad that wasn't the best male role model. But now I had this man that was like a superhero to me that believed in me. But it's also tremendously impacted how I approach my students, my clients, the people that I have the opportunity to speak in front of taking those opportunities to be that for them as well.
Hey, man, thank you for sharing that story and being so transparent, man. That's a inspirational story right there.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, brother.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, if you guys are watching and not listening, listen to me anyway. I'm going to shout out Chris's website where you can contact him. I believe he has a free resource for you guys as well, but it's www.chrisnatzke.com. Natzke spelled Natzke, Natzke, chrisnatzke.com. Yeah, if you get value from today's episode in this discourse, he has put together a free resource called Top 10 Big Ideas to Create Breakthroughs in Your Life. He's offering that to you guys for free for watching and listening. So definitely want to jump on that. I know you guys like free, so there you go. It's a free resource. www.chrisnatzke.com. My brother, thanks again for being here and for sharing your story. That was very inspirational. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks, my friend.
Life and leadership coach, keynote speaker, Amazon #1 best-selling author, and one of today's leading voices in breakthrough performance, Chris Natzke. If you're watching us today for the very first time, thanks for making us part of your week. Chris is going to follow me on all the socials that he uses, so that way if you have a question for us or for him, Chris can answer his own question, because I can't be Chris. I'll do my best to facilitate where I can, but I want Chris to answer his own question because he has the knowledge and expertise that I don't. So hopefully he'll follow us on social media so you can kind of keep up with the episode and how it's progressing and the feedback. But thanks for watching us. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook as we speak. We get on audio platforms ASAP. But thanks again for making us part of your week. That's Chris Natzke. I'm Mr. U. Have a great day. Thanks for watching The Inspiration Station, where stories spark action. Stay inspired.